if we only play notes 30%, like the right notes 30% of the time, or like
exactly,
you know what I mean? Like, so that's the biggest difference between like music and like other things, is that we have to be able to do our thing 100% accuracy, or at least as close to 100% as possible, and that takes so much out of you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's tiring, man.
It is. And it's not. It may not be like physically tiring, but mentally, it does take a lot out of you.
Absolutely, and I we could talk for ages about that. I want to kind of hit some of these points that I wrote down.
Yeah.
Just to, because I think that this is. We've already, we could just keep talking and it would be perfect. But I just want to sort of, I guess, I'm not going to go through every point, but I think the most important one is we've already sort of talked about the crossover between the professional and academic spheres and stuff a little bit. And I remember having a conversation with somebody about going back to do grad school, and you probably had this same conversation with the same person actually, and he basically was saying, do you want are you just looking to perpetuate the whole cycle of academia by going back to school so you can teach, to then teach students who will then go to school to teach, who then teach students who on and on. And one thing that I had that in mind. I remember that conversation. I had that in mind when I went to go do a master's, and I sort of have had that in my mind ever since. Is what is the end goal of what I'm doing here? Am I just trying to get? And I shouldn't say just. The thing is, it's and this is another topic. It's all kind of part of it. At UNLV, there is a lot of working musicians who are also teaching. And now there's a sort of double-edged thing that comes with that, which is you have the sort of maybe bad side of that, or not ideal side of that, is that you have less time maybe with the teacher that you're there to learn from, and maybe the teacher isn't as present. And this isn't to say, and I'm not even bad-mouthing or even talking about anyone from UNLV. It's just I feel like this is could be true of any program like this where there is a lot of teachers out doing commercial stuff. There's you could have the situation where the teacher isn't as present, and they're just kind of using it as a fallback, and maybe they aren't even a good teacher, but they're an excellent musician, but they don't know how to teach. And there's lots of people you know for a fact that's everywhere. I'm definitely not narrowing down any school. That's every school in the country for music. But then on the other side of that, you are at an advantage because all of your teachers are out doing the work that you're trying to eventually do. You're developing contacts. You're learning from somebody who's doing the thing for real. And then I feel bad about saying things like for real, because that implies that being a university professor and teaching saxophone isn't a real job, which it's probably more real than most jobs. But what I mean is what do you think of that? What do you think of the cycle of because that's what kind of happens. It's this mushroom that goes you leave school, you graduate, and then you teach students who then go to graduate to then teach and on and on. Are we just sort of are we conserving the craft at this point, or are we trying to develop the industry, I guess?
So
how do we create more jobs?
So here's the way.
That's 20 questions all in one.
But here's the way I look at going back to school and teaching and all of that stuff. So, just to be completely honest, the only reason why I did my master's degree was to be able to get my doctorate to be able to teach at the university level. It's like, okay, why do you want to teach that at the university level? Well, I like working with younger adults who want to, improve themselves in music, specifically saxophone, flute, clarinet, whatever. And then I thought to myself, I was like, really, is that it? Like, that's very, single level kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, I'm going back to teach people how to play saxophone and be able to get jobs after that. But then my philosophy changed somewhere along the way.
Okay.
And then I realized that the reason why I'm doing this is to be able to help young adults to be better human beings. Like, literally, I'm looking at it from, this bigger, broader thing, And my concern is that a lot of students in undergraduate programs, especially, if they're music majors or whatever, that they feel like they're trapped. And that, oh, music's the only thing I'm good at. Music is, this is going to be what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm in school for, so that must mean, this is the only thing I'm going to be able to do after this.
I would say that's probably most music students who are at least taking it seriously, who aren't about to, switch majors or something.
And my thing is that, I'm here to teach these students that there are other professional avenues that you can go down on after they leave. It doesn't only have to be music, right? And I think we forget sometimes as teachers, as professors, we have to be able to foster in students that just curiosity, basically. It's like, what else are you interested in other than music?
Right.
What else in life gives you passion, Or what other things in life are you passionate about? Because I think students aren't encouraged enough to pursue those things outside of their major. Right?
But then don't you think someone hearing that who just spent all of their limbs on a music degree, isn't that kind of just well, what the hell? Why did I just do that for 4 years then? If you're just going to tell me to go find what else are you interested in? That's probably what I mean. Is that. I'm thinking of myself in my fourth year when I asked my teacher what I should do after I graduate with a bachelor's in jazz studies, and he told me to maybe look at getting a trade. I'm just well, I could have been taking lessons while getting a trade this whole time, so thanks for that.
Okay, so yes.
You know what I mean? And I've seen the value in what he was saying now, but at the time, I'm just placing myself at the time.
And this is exactly why I like to be upfront and honest with freshmen students, freshmen and sophomores especially. I'm like, hey, this degree you're getting, yes. It's you're learning how to play, you're learning how to be a better musician, blah blah blah. But I start them off early in their collegiate career, thinking about what else they want to do in life, right? I think that's where a lot of teachers go wrong, is that they don't. It's not that they don't care about their students, is that they don't they don't have these discussions enough with their students.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, at an early, especially at a very, very early stage. You got to be honest with them about the industry. You got to be honest with them about where they are in terms of their playing, how talented are they really? Right? It's how good are you at, playing the saxophone, really?
Yeah.
And you already know, right? When a kid is going to be the next Chris Potter, or when the kid is going to be the next Max Roach. You know what I mean? Like you already know.
But then most of those kids don't become Max Roach. They don't become Chris Potter. They go, if I put this much energy into being a lawyer, I'm going to be the best fucking lawyer in Toronto or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but that's a good point. It's like, I don't know, but like you're going in the direction of going like, what else do you want to do besides music? But like, I think someone who is going to school to study music, I want to make money from music. I want to make money on my investment that I'm making, So it's like, I think you hit two very good points. Is like, tell them how good they are or how bad they are. Be honest with them early on, and then give them like, what are the options that they're possibly going to have when they leave. And the thing is, like right now, it's kind of hard to do that because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the direction things are going. Like, there's people in the middle of the pandemic. I'm at a rehearsal that like some people couldn't make it. We're just rehearsing for no money or anything. It was just like a little startup thing that we're trying to do. And these people were subbing. The alto player and the tenor player were subs that night, and they're guys that I play with at the show that got shut down during the pandemic. And I'm going like, well, if these guys are free, they're the best. They're in the top 10 of the saxophone players in Vegas. What am I doing? I'm like maybe in the 30s. In the 20s, the top 30, maybe, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, so it's like it's a buyer's market, and it seems like for musicians, it's always a buyer's market, meaning it's the client's market.
So okay.
I don't know. What do you think? It's like, what do you say to them? It's like there's shrinking. There's not that many gigs. Hey, and you have Joel Fromm saying, "Hey, hold on to that gig. That's really good that you have a gig." But then it's like, we've just had this conversation about like, there has to be more to that. I have to be able to afford a house and maybe like have a family and stuff. All the things that a human being in this side of the country is sort of like expected to be, and that's their definition of success. So like, how do you reach that? You know what I mean?
I think again, we have to start these kids out like early on, and not make them or not give them delusions about being a professional musician and making that their full-time career. Because that's just not the way it is anymore, And it's true, right? Like, there's no way that you're going to just be a musician full-time and make, X amount of money or whatever. Because I'm just saying that because, like, if that's like your mindset that you're telling these kids right away, then you're just lying to them. Like, that's I truly believe in my heart that playing music full time 100% is not going to be your only way of making a living. Like, there's just no way. You either
it can't be. You
can't do that, right? So that's the mentality that you have to teach students right away, is that they need to be more versatile in their interests, right? And whatever, and I think you have to tell students too that they should do things that they're passionate about, right? That's the big thing, is that I teach a lot of non-majors now, for example. And these kids, man, they're just happy playing music, And I think there is something to that, right? Being a non-major, but still like, going into music just because you love it. So
it's so interesting because, like, sorry, finish your thought. I got something else.
The thing is, like, I just look at it from a completely different perspective. Just like, I am not here to teach these kids to I'm here to teach these kids to be better musicians, obviously. But I also am here to prepare them for the real world in whatever whatever shape that may take later on, whether
Yeah.
it's in music or not, I think I can teach those things of like, discipline, responsibility, setting goals for yourself, really having basically just your expectations for yourself have to be higher,
Yeah.
and I think that like if you start that early on with students, they start to figure that out within the first 2 years of like whether they're going to be professional musicians or whatever else they want to do. And
Yeah.
I think too that like I don't think that's a waste of money, I really think that like you go to college for these kinds of experiences,
Yeah.
just being around in this community. I think that's so well worth what you're, it's just that experience of being around, these basically this circle of people who want to constantly be improving themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest difference between not going to college right away versus going to college right away is that once you go, let's say you go from high school straight to just working, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may get into an environment where you're not encouraged to improve for a long time. Whereas in college, like that's the main goal is to be improving all the time. So I totally think that is money like well spent.
Yeah, even just that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying.
And also, speaking of being honest with students, you can't, like, you got to be honest with students about the financial part of being a musician. Let's say you do have students that are, they're going to be professional musicians. Like, they're that
Right.
good and that they're that talented or whatever. Even at that point, you got to be honest with them about how much money they're actually going to make with that.
Yeah.
And that's when you start like really talking about what it means to be a musician in the current market, what it means to be a teacher in the current market, what are my options, blah blah blah. I think that there's always a way. I really do. I'm very optimistic when it comes to things that happen after college. I think
Okay.
I think there's always a way to basically make a living, whether that's music part-time, music full-time, or your other interests go into that or whatever. And at least I know with a couple of my students, there's a couple of students that have graduated recently, and they didn't go into music, but they've got full-time jobs and they're making a living, and they're very good at what they do, and they still take the time to grow as people, and I just spoke to one of my students the other day. We were just talking about the football game, but I also asked like, hey, how's work going? And he's like, yeah, man, like I'm learning new things, and I'm getting a raise next week just because I'm like, better at this new thing that they told me, and blah, blah, blah. And that was, I just felt like he was talking about one of the lessons that we had,
Sure.
and it's so easy, I think, to just be so dark about the future of music education and just being a professional musician. But I think we need to expand our vision of what it means to be a professional, right?
That's so exactly the perfect segue into what I was about to say, too, because our friend, a drummer friend of ours that moved out here, I remember he came out and was learning 200 tunes for the band that we both played with. He's coming out and he's like, the whole point, we basically had a big conversation about like, he really had to reevaluate why he was doing this, why he wanted to make money from drums exclusively.
Right.
Like, why are we becoming musicians? We love playing music. Well, do we love playing every type of music? No, I mean, like, maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. Like, I like this genre, that genre. That's what makes me the most happy. But in a professional setting where we are playing these like weddings or corporate stuff, you kind of have to play everything. And we're used to that from being on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
And he certainly is too, but he's coming out and he's saying he's learning this repertoire and all that. And he sort of had like an aha moment of like, I don't want this to be like, I'm learning a song I hate. So now the thing that I love doing, which is playing drums, that's now a negative experience because I have to do most of the stuff that I'm doing is not fun. Basically is what he's saying. And it's not just saying like everything has to be fun all the time for it to be worth it. It just means like he was at kind of a net negative, you know. And so he really was just like, so if I think he's like, I think it involves all the shame that we build up as musicians, especially in music school. Again, not bad mouthing music school, but it's just kind of part of it. Is like, if you're gonna go out and you're gonna be a musician, you're gonna be a musician, which means anything that's not playing music, you should be embarrassed by. This is my own like psyche talking to me, by the way.
Yeah.
This is my own demons. But that was my mindset for so long, and especially when I got the gig on the cruise ship. It's like, I finally did it. I'm finally making all of my money just from this job, which is being a musician. And it's a wonderful feel. I won't lie that it's an amazing feeling because it's like, I must be at least this level, and cool, I made it to this tier or whatever. But he's talking about like, it goes back to like talking about this sort of decline of my psyche going through being on a cruise ship. It's like I should be happy. Why am I not happy? I'm so unhappy while I'm here, and not all the time. But it was just that got to the point where I had to leave. But I'm losing my train of thought here. Let's go back to our drummer friend who's basically saying, if I'm not happy doing this, then I should just focus on the stuff that can make me happy, which is playing just this type of music. Okay, I can't make a full living just playing that type of music because there's not enough market for that. There's no gigs just for that music or whatever. So he's like, and I need to pay my mortgage, I need to feed my kids. He went back to his job as a banker. And he plays music, the music that he likes, on the weekend for free, or whatever they make. And he's the happiest he's ever been because he doesn't have all this pressure on himself to only make all of his money from playing the drums. And now he can not worry about money so much. Yeah, like he's going and doing this, but he's still a musician. He still considers himself a musician, even though he's not making 100% of his income from drums. So right. I think that's something that really helped me kind of go, okay, cool. That's okay to not, I'm not a failure. I didn't wait, because I have 2 degrees hanging on my wall that say, hey, you're still in debt from from that. And it is, I've sort of, over the course of the last few years, I've gotten over like the shame of like, it's not even shame, that's too strong of a word. It's just like the disappointment in myself if I need to go and do a job that's not playing the saxophone. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
With that, I don't know where this came into my life, but I was never delusional about what it meant to be a musician. You know? I always knew that there was going to be some level of sacrifice involved, right? And there's levels to this. So,
yeah.
You know, and I think that's what we forget as musicians sometimes, is that we have this idealized version of what we're supposed to be, right, as professionals, right?
Exactly.
We're like, oh, I'm supposed to be, making a certain amount of money, being a professional musician. I'm blah, 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 all this stuff. But what we forget sometimes is that, like, no, doing this for a living means that you're probably just going to be making a certain amount, you know?
Yeah.
And you have to be able to deal with that. Like, you have to be able to accept those things. For me, personally, I have come to accept those things a long time ago, right? I am totally satisfied with making a certain amount of money for the rest of my life, right?
Okay.
Because I'm not into this to make a certain amount of money. That's not my point in doing all of this. That's the problem, is that when we get into this as musicians and we set up these expectations that are completely delusional, in my mind, at least, right? Like, you know, if let's say you're gonna focus on being a classical musician, right? In playing classical music, or you know, just basically like new music, you know, like new compositions and all that kind of stuff. Contemporary stuff, right? Let's say that's your passion in life. Then you're gonna have to deal with the fact that you're probably not gonna make much money doing that, right? That shouldn't stop you though from doing that. I think you'll be, and it's so much easier now with Facebook and social media and, like, you know, just internet in general, to find those avenues and outlets that you can connect, you know, with other people with who are also into whatever you're doing.
Right.
And I think that it's viable to still make a living doing that, enjoy what you're doing, but you can't expect to be, you know, making six figures.
But then I guess
doing that.
But then I guess, is that to say, like, and I guess it depends on where in the country you live,
yeah.
too, but, like, are you able to, you may have to accept the fact that you might not be able to afford more than a 2-bedroom house.
Yes.
Or
exactly.
have more than X amount of kids, or like real life shit.
Real life shit. Exactly.
That nobody talks about in school.
And
right?
this is why I try to be so honest with my students, like, at such an early age. Do you want to have a family?
Yeah.
Are you I
guess I did hear that.
You know what I
before,
mean? Like, are you looking to
register it.
To have a car, for example? You know, are you looking to
travel?
Yeah, do you want to travel?
Yeah.
Are you looking to buy a house? What, like,
how many luxuries are you willing to give up for this as a lifestyle, I guess? Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, what kind of life do you want to live?
Yeah.
You know? And when you become a professional musician, in my opinion, you have to be realistic about these things, right? And of course, opportunities are going to come, you know, as you go, and unexpected, you know, things may happen in your career. I'm still waiting for that, but you know,
aren't we all?
Like, opportunities will present themselves, you know, if, you know, you do the work and you put in the work and the time. I truly believe, and I'm not kidding you, this has happened my entire career. I've always just focused on being good at what I do, always doing it at a high level, right? And keeping that consistent. You know, that's the big thing about being a professional in anything, right? Is consistency. So just being consistently at a certain level in whatever you're doing, right? And my entire career, man, opportunities have presented themselves every time I've just done those things and just, like, you know, put in the work. And of course there's going to be times where, you know, like the pandemic, where, you know, work's going to disappear for a while. But does that mean that you should stop, you know, you know what I mean? Does that mean you should stop being a musician, stop improving, and stop all that kind of stuff? I guess ultimately that's up to you. But for me, no, man. I still want to keep doing what I'm doing, because that's what keeps me motivated and that's what keeps me going. And you know, partly this is why the way my life is right now is because I've made these sacrifices, and I was willing to make these sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
I'm single. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I don't have a car, I ride my bike all over town basically. So I don't pay, car insurance, that kind of stuff. These are sacrifices that I knew that I had to make if I wanted to go to grad school and come out with as little debt as possible.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me too was that I had enough patience to be able to say to myself, hey, you might need another year.
Yeah.
You might need another 2 years to move on to your next thing. And I think there is something to that. I go back and forth sometimes, but there's this philosophy. I think that if you're not basically if what the kids call FOMO now, right? Like fear of missing out, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's this whole fear of missing out thing. I think that's total BS.
Well, in what regard?
In
FOMO.
What I mean is that you don't have to live your life like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you can stay in one spot for a while and just continually improve yourself, and eventually you can move on to a new thing or a new place, or accomplish these goals. There's a lot of people that I know. It's like, okay, when I'm 26, I have to, be this.
Yeah.
When I'm when I turn 30, I have to be at a certain place in my career. I have to have 3 albums out, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I teach that to my students too. I'm just look, it's nice to have goals and stuff, but you got to be flexible in terms of your expectations, right? You can't be so hard on yourself to always do that, because it again I keep going back to this. Is these expectations we set on ourselves. Sometimes they're just they're impossible.
Millennials, right?
Right.
We're millennials.
Yeah.
And it's your parents were probably making more money relative to whatever, adjust for inflation, but when they were 30 than you are when you're 30, and that's just because we're living in a different universe. You know what I mean? That's not to say you should work hard, but it's just I struggled with that. It's it sucks. I'm approaching my mid 30s, and I would have liked to have a house by now, but it's not going to happen for a little while.
Yeah.
Right. Just at where I am right now, if I stay where I am, which I'm hoping it doesn't last that much longer, but that's the reality. So I'm just trying to forgive myself as much as I can, but no, I appreciate.
Yeah, I don't think it's that you have to forgive yourself. Is that you have to live in your reality, right? This is the reality of the situation. We're in a pandemic.
And I tell myself all the time, I look around and I have everything I need. I have a room that I can sit here and talk to you in and record, and Meredith's off doing something else, and we have room. We can have guests now. It's we're doing really great. We have everything we need. It's just I know I'm not happy where I am, but it's a balancing act, because it's that's what motivation is.
And I think you just hit it right there. So. It's this balance. You have to achieve a balance of what is reality and what your expectations are, right? Yeah. And if you don't meet these expectations because of reality, that doesn't mean that you should just throw away all of that. That just means you might have to readjust a bit, right? That might mean you have to do the country club gig for a little while longer. That might mean you have to teach that middle school gig for a little while longer. Yeah. Right? It's not the end of the world.
It's true. And it's I get to I at least have health insurance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's we're Canadians living in the States, so it's there's that's a big
it's a big thing, but
minds,
no, I
yeah.
I guess just to wrap all of this up, I I just try not to get too dark about these situations. And especially being a musician, it's so easy to go down these holes, of darkness. But I think we have to have a wider scope as artists and as musicians that, like, if we just keep putting in the work and just doing things that we're passionate about, whether we make all of our income doing that or a little bit of it, it'll turn into something, right?
Yeah.
So I started, for example, for my own thing, like I started photography a little later down in my career, as a musician, just because like I always loved taking photos and things like that. And I never wanted to do it for money. I just loved doing it,
Yeah.
And then that ended up becoming like a big part of my career now.
Yeah,
right?
You did all my headshots.
Yeah. And
Great headshots, man.
Again, like
good lighting.
So again, like I just went into that with this passion of just like I want to be a better photographer. I want to, I basically want to satisfy my, just basically I just wanted to pursue photography and be satisfied with what I'm doing all the time.
Yeah.
Nah, same thing with this whole graphic design thing that I'm doing now too. I only started doing that just because I was fucking around. Like I was doing it for fun. But now it's become like this big part of my career where, people are constantly calling me back and emailing me. And it's like, hey, can you do a poster for my thing? So that becomes a part of my thing. So
I did 2 of my album covers, by the way.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, though? It's like I think if you just keep pursuing these things you're passionate about and do it at a high level, right? And I think that's the key, is that you have to do things at a high level.
Yeah.
That's
it. Well, and that's one thing I know that. It's like right now I'm at a place where I'm like, I know that I just need to make something that is undeniably good to point to when I'm in an interview for X whatever. It's like, I don't necessarily have to have worked at a video game company and have a shipped title to my name in order to say, like, here's something really cool I did with, like, audio, or, like, here's something that you know what I mean? Like, I have hopes. I'm just right now. It's just that there's times when it's just I'm just getting exhausted. It's conversations like this really recharge my batteries because it just puts everything in perspective. It's and it reminds me that I am doing this and that and this and that, right?
Yeah.
It's just I guess I've just been hearing no a lot lately, which is it's normal when you're looking for jobs to hear a lot of no's. Understandably. There was 2 really big no's this week, so I'm just kind of like,
right.
Anyway, we could talk for like another day straight.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to wrap up? There's one more point I wanted to make to sort of end on a funnier note, I suppose.
Yeah. So I think it just goes back into this whole thing. It's like a lot of, what I try to tell my students is like, what does it really mean to be a professional, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's in music or whatever you get into in your life.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing for me is never settling for mediocrity.
Yeah.
I think if you always pursue whatever your interests are at a high level and develop that discipline to be able to do those things at a high level, I think you're going to be okay as a professional,
What is that? So, like, we've heard that a lot, and one thing I will say is I want to phrase it differently to sort of give someone listening that's maybe like, oh yeah, be the best, do a really good job, obviously. But what that in the real world that looks like is like, for a concrete example of that is I was doing I've been a year ago or something, I kind of stopped doing them because of other projects, but I was doing these game jams where I would be working with game developers, like amateur game developers, programmers, artists, to make a game, to contribute the audio for a game. And because they were week-long endeavors, they were very short projects, I didn't put a lot of effort into that. Like, I treated them, I had other stuff going on, sure, but I was just treating it as like this little fun thing, whatever. I could work on this like an hour longer, but it's for this. And I started to realize, like, don't ever do that. Like, don't, like, always make it the absolute best it can be, always. If it's going to take another hour and a half, and, like, maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm not getting paid for that, just do it. Yeah. Because, like, it's going to end up being, you're going to leave a trail of really good things that you've done that you can point to. And even though, like, there's stuff that I'm pointing to in interviews and stuff that, like, I'm like, didn't think anything of it at the time. There's stuff, like, I'm teaching one of my students at UNLV about, like, non-linear video game music design and stuff. And it's all with little amateur sounding stuff that some of them, I'm trying to use the ones that I actually did put effort into. But there's some stuff that I've definitely thrown away because I'm like, I can't believe I wrote that. I can't believe I was satisfied with how that sounds. Yeah. You know? So it's like, point in saying that is just like, that's a concrete example of, like, really just always do the best job, even if it's just like for some thing that you're not even getting paid for. Just make it the absolute best that you know how to make it. You know?
No,
easy rule of thumb.
One of the big examples is that, like, I sat in with this country band here, you know, and they were just playing at
the pictures.
They were just playing at this coffee shop, like, near where I live, and I was just like, oh, hey, Noah, you know, what's up? And it's like, hey, can I jam with you guys? And literally, like, all I was focused on was, like, playing in the pocket, playing in the groove, and playing in tune. And, you know, being able to, like, just compliment the singer and whatever, you know? And I wasn't doing it because, like, I wanted to be, you know, recognized or anything. I was just doing it because I was like, yeah, I still love doing this. Like, this music's actually pretty cool. And then now, like, I gig with them on a consistent basis here. Yeah. Right? So, you know, other people may have scoffed at the fact that, like, oh, it's country music. What is that?
Right. Yeah. It's like we're coming from, like, pretentious kind of, like, jazz mindset.
You know, but it's like, no, listen to the stories. Like, it's good music. Like, they write, you know, this group, they write their own music. Like, it's good stuff, you know? I'm like, yeah, I just want to, like, put in my 2 cents, you know? And they freaking... They told me the other day, like, at our gig, they're like, oh my, you know how much we appreciate you being here? Like, this is amazing. So, from their perspective, right, it's this, you know, it's just this guy that's just, like, adding to their passion, basically. Yeah. I think if you're going to do anything, just do it with good intentions, too. Yeah.
Well, and people want to work with you, man. It's like people want to... They see somebody doing something really well and making it look easy. I want to hang out with that guy and see what is he like to make him different. You know, how can I be more like that guy? You know. Yeah. Is there anything you want to plug before we close this out?
Yeah, I'm working on a few things. In terms of just my social media stuff, that is the one thing about my career that I'm not very good at. Is being, like, able to promote myself and things like that. So that's kind of my goal before the end of the year is to get all of that stuff, like, up and running. But yeah, just look for me on Facebook, Bryan Canonigo Music, Bryan Canonigo Photography. And just look for me there. I'm trying to be more active on Instagram as well, and so you can check me out on Instagram too. It's Bryan Canonigo on Instagram.
Bryan Canonigo. Yeah. To end on an upper. Not that this whole thing has been an upper. This has been a fantastic conversation. I would like to tell the story of the butter clarinet.
Oh my god.
So when we would go to the mess, the staff mess, and they would always keep the packets of butter in the fridge. So
They would be hard.
You know,
yeah, they would just.
Yeah,
be
it would be hard. You can't spread your butter on a thing. So I'd like,
Yeah.
you know, I want to have like a bagel or something. Like maybe they don't have anything I like that day, and I just want to have something bread and butter.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be real smart, and I'm gonna take the butter out of the fridge, and I'm gonna put it in my pocket to warm it up, and then I'm gonna go assemble the rest of my plate and go sit down and. You know, take the butter out. It'll be nice and pliable by then. Nice and spreadable.
Yeah. Spreadable.
This particular day, what was I playing? I think I was playing tenor, right? Because I was playing clarinet.
Yeah. You were playing tenor and clarinet. I think we left the mess hall. We had to go straight to work. Like basically straight to the show. And I guess we didn't think of it or whatever. I mean, you just never thought of it. And we're like sitting there just, goofing off as we usually do right before the show. All that pre-show music. We're probably like singing along to it or some shit. I don't know.
Mind you, doing our jobs the whole time. We're comfortable there and we're having fun.
Some of that pre-show music was so funny. Oh my God.
No. Candy Rain?
Yeah, Candy Rain. Yes. That was the
Candy Rain.
That was the one. And then anyway, so yeah, we're playing the show. Was it a Wonderful World? And it starts on. It starts with flutes and clarinets. It's a pretty hard like intro,
Lot of runs.
Yeah, a lot of runs, and all this stuff, and we put our headphones in for the click track, and then it's going like. This was like moments before the click track started. You put your hand in your pocket, and you pull it out, and to put my clarinet,
my mouthpiece
right?
cap, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. You pulled it out, and
everybody knows where this is going.
Yeah, you pulled your hand out, and you put it on your clarinet, and you're just like, you look at your hand, and you see this white stuff, and I'm like looking at it too. I was like, what the hell, dude? And he's like,
my first thought was like, it's cork grease.
Yeah,
I must have had a thing. I'm like, what's happening? Why is this?
Yeah, you thought it was on your. You thought it was coming from your clarinet, right?
And mind you, Brian, I was like looking around. I was not discreet about any of this.
Oh yeah.
Like, what the hell is this on my hand?
Yeah.
Like everybody's like chin turns around. He's like, what? And you're looking at it. We're all trying to kind of figure it out, and then you remember that I had put that in my because we had a conversation about how smart I was.
Yeah.
Putting the butter in my pocket to warm it up while I'm waiting.
And then because like I see there's
and
like
Brian goes.
Well, what happens is like there's
butter.
Because there's like this big grease stain on your freaking pocket, and then I say the words. Oh, it's the butter, and then the click track goes off. And we got to start playing, and then the orchestra pit starts rising, and you're just laughing, and you can't control yourself.
It was that was the most challenging time I've played that, because like, if you've ever sat next to Brian on a bandstand, when he gets laughing, it's impossible to not laugh.
Shut up.
It's impossible. No, it is, because you just have an infectious laugh. Because like, I know exactly what you're thinking, and like. It's like the whole like laughing in church thing or laughing at a funeral. It's like when you're not supposed to laugh.
Yeah.
Holy God, that makes it so much more funny. And
I'm the worst at that.
Jesus Christ. So it's just like, it's the butter. Oh no.
And the orchestra pit's going up, right? And like we're about to be like exposed to like the audience, and we're there like fiddling with this butter covered hand, and like
I was still played. I played. I like mash it. Like I got as much off of my hand as I could, and then
I remember I had napkins like somewhere on the bandstand, or no, Dan had a box of Kleenex or whatever it was, and I was like trying to like grab it with my foot or something while I was like playing, and that was a disaster. Oh my God.
I don't remember it being like a playing disaster, but it was definitely like I did not hear the end of that for a long time. From like, if you've ever worked with any professional musician, like they we like to make fun of each other. It's kind of it can get to the point where it's a little bit toxic sometimes, but this time I totally deserved it. Definitely earned the name Butterfingers for like a couple weeks. Whatever.
Definitely what
so
our
I'll just
company...
never forget how you said it's the butter.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I can't.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, anytime.
Catching up with you. It's not that we catch up, but
I mean, we all get busy.
It doesn't matter how long we don't talk. You just text me, call me up. It's like we never left the same room. So
yeah,
good times.
Good times.
All right, we made it to the end of episode 2. Thank you so much to Bryan. It's always a pleasure talking to him. You'll notice that I didn't do any advertisements that episode. No breaks, unless there's breaks now in the version that you're hearing, in which case I'm lying to you right now. But things change. That's the biz. That doesn't mean that I'm done doing those forever, by any means. I'm just trying one without it. See, maybe people like it better without interruptions. That wasn't necessarily going to be a running gag. I did the Gilded Leash last time. Sometimes it's just better to leave it as it is. I don't know if that's better for people or not. Let me know what you think. If you don't care, then I don't really care either. It's fine. We're just going to talk. It's a podcast. That's it. But I will tell you to go to Bryan's Instagram. That's at Bryan Canonigo. Just a clean, no numbers. Congrats on that, Bryan. I'm jealous. An uninterrupted username. Wonderful. How did you pay for that? How does that work? On top of being such a world-class musician, Bryan is a fantastic photographer and graphic editor. He does things like headshots, album covers, concert posters, any number of things, and most notably, of course, the artwork for this podcast. Did a beautiful job. Love the blue. All right, that's it. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to... I think I saw episode 3 at the bottom of this big pit over here. Hold on. Hello? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's down there. I'm just going to jump. I think it's safe. I'll see you there.